Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast about getting over overwhelm and busyness and moving into the fullness of living in God's calling and finding peace and abundance and freedom. I'm Liz Frerichs, and this is my husband Evan.
Hello.
And we are so thrilled that you guys are here with us on this lovely Thursday. It always cracks me up every day, being like, it's whatever day, yay! Because I'm not really a days of the week person.
It's too confusing.
Yes. Well, more just the only days that I care about are Monday and Saturday. So.
Okay. Maybe we shouldn't even reference it anymore. And welcome to another day.
Yes. A new day with no mistakes in it.
Yeah.
Anyway. As you guys know, we work our way through the CSCs. They are being calm, surrendered, centered, connected, and complete, because we have found that applying those principles really is the difference between living in overwhelm and stress and finding freedom and abundance. So last week we spent the whole week talking about being centered, and this week we're spending the whole week talking about being connected. And today we are going to talk about fear of rejection.
Yeah, this is a big one, especially because we're going to advocate confessing your sins to your Christian brothers and sisters. And this is when we feel like we might be rejected for that, or looked down on or something, looked down upon.
So it's interesting that you said that, because my first thought with fear of rejection is not confessing my sins.
Oh, yeah.
Because to me, that's like 10 steps, maybe 100 steps into the relationship.
So, I guess, again, we'll get into the caution versus
difference
just go on
between
ahead.
Our personalities. Yes.
So where does it start to hit?
For me, well, I mean, as I think I shared on earlier this week on the podcast, we were at a church camp this weekend, and just even meeting new people, my first instinct is like, oh, these people are not going to like me if I am myself, if I am more just vibrant and not, I think because of my personality type, I am not your average, meek, quiet, sweet, kind of that archetypal Christian woman. I don't tend to fit that, and especially growing up with my mother being that type of personality, my initial response is, oh, nobody's going to like me if I'm strong-willed and obnoxious,
Okay. And
I mean,
have you found
vivacious,
that
not obnoxious.
Have you found that to be true, or is that just a fear that's...
Depends.
Yeah, sure.
It depends on the circumstances. I mean, there are some people who are very offended by the fact that I'm not the quiet Christian woman. And then there are other people that are totally fine with it.
Yeah, I could see that. I think, I jump straight to kind of the end. When I think of connected, I just believe so much in identifying with the gospel of grace, and in that is this area where we can know each other's sin and just celebrate grace together. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of layers of relationship growth in between that. Right.
Yeah. So I found that with my fear of rejection, so it can mess up the initial part of the relationship. But then even after I have a relationship, in the past, I really struggled with being able to not bend over backwards, to stand up for what I believe in, on one hand is the I'm going to bend over backwards. And on the other hand is I'm going to close off. And one of my pet secret ways, which now you guys will know all about, my pet secret ways of closing myself off to people is to be very interested in what is going on in their lives.
Oh, sure. So you can just talk about them.
Right. Yeah, somebody goes, so how are you doing? Oh, good. How's your children doing?
Right.
How is your house? How's your pets? How's your job?
Yeah.
How's every little detail? Do tell. And it's much easier, keeping so much focus on them. People love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a very
Although
easy
you
way. That's true. But for the most part, people love to talk about themselves. So if you just get people involved in a conversation, which sometimes I love doing that, just as I care about this person, I know I'm interested. It's not always for the motivation of I'm trying to protect myself, but
And
I
that
can do
could go
that.
to a place of real connection too. Like maybe they'll actually get vulnerable instead of just talking about,
Right.
the struggle is
They're 50
real
cats.
over, or like, oh, we couldn't decide what color to paint the wall.
Yes.
A lot of my notes have to do with sin, but I think some of it relates because you're talking about, oh, there's something about me that's not going to be accepted.
Right.
And in the same way, we do that with our sin too. Like, it's too bad to share, or it's too unusual, or I shouldn't even be struggling with this, and yet I do, and so I better not even mention it. And
Right.
it can get in the way of some connection happening because
Yeah, definitely.
you're shutting down vulnerability. Well, I do that, and it stops connection before it can even really happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain point where once your relationship is past a certain point, you kind of have to start being honest about your sin
Yeah,
issues with the other
yeah,
person if you want it to grow.
sure. Or and especially if you're interacting more than just, I don't know, the more frequently you're interacting and the more they get to know you and your family and stuff, they're going to see kind of
Yeah.
some of the stuff that's going on.
Well, and the less you can talk about, like, oh, this thing that happened last month. If you were talking to somebody every week, yeah, you kind of have to
Yeah.
start talking about some of that stuff.
Yeah. And you and I both really kind of dislike small talk. So
This is true.
if we hang out with someone too long, even it's still small talk, we're both going to be going crazy inside, wanting the conversation to go
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to remember that small talk is the road to deeper relationship because it just feels like a waste of time.
And sometimes I feel this fear of rejection with small talk. I feel like I'm not good enough at it, and then
Hmm.
it's kind of a game maybe that people play, and it's kind of a way to get to feel out what's going on and what's going to happen next. And I
Interesting.
feel like I'm so bad at it that maybe there's some opportunities that I'm missing out on.
That could be.
Because I feel like I put off this vibe, especially at work or something, where it's just like I'm not interested. Like, and I want
Right.
to be interested in people, but I'm just so disinterested in. But yeah, how else are you
The
going to get to know
surfacey stuff.
somebody?
Yeah.
And the surfacey stuff, like if somebody really cares about their yard and they want to talk about it, that says something about them, and I should be able to glean.
Yeah.
Or, well, yeah, what do they talk about? It's important to them.
The weather.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're into sports or something, or a golfer.
Yes. Or maybe they have children who want to know when they can go outside every day.
Yeah.
We kind of already started talking about some ways to get over that,
Well,
jump through it.
sure. And one big way I think is that what I wanted to say is, so we're talking about fear of rejection. You may actually get rejected. I mean, that it's not
Oh,
that we're
yeah.
saying do this, and if you kind of are the right amount of cautious and the right amount of adventurous, you'll never get rejected again
No.
because it's so. Knowing that, I think, is helpful. Like, okay, it's going to
Normalizing
happen,
rejection. Hmm.
and that we'll never get rejected by God, which is amazing. We've just listened to a sermon series at our church about the prodigal son story, and our pastor did 3 weeks on it. 1 week on the prodigal son, 1 week on the older brother, and 1 week on the father.
I
And
love
those are
that
such,
story.
yeah, they're such amazing characters. And just ending with the father trying to draw both of his sons out and get them to come into the party,
Yeah.
like there's no rejection there, and there's no,
Right.
yeah, it's just amazing. And that's how it is with God and us.
Yeah, definitely. I wrote down in my notes that we will never be more rejected than we are chosen.
Hmm.
Like, that was one of the things that was really helpful for me is when I was thinking about my relationship with Jesus. Once I became a believer and once I really, we talked about this earlier, talking about self-worth issues, but that idea of really steeping ourselves in our belovedness.
Hmm.
And, when we have that shield that keeps grappling hooks from being able to, those lies from attaching to ourselves. But if you think about it like a balance scales and think about the weight of God's opinion and how well he knows us and that he's our maker and all those kinds of things, if somebody who doesn't really know you all that well, or even if they know you better than most people, but they still are just a human being, they don't know the thoughts of your heart, like it says in Proverbs, that a heart's troubles are its own.
Yeah.
Like there are certain things you just can't share with other people. But God knows all that stuff. And so when you compare the weight of God's acceptance versus the weight of someone else's rejection, we're never going to be more rejected than we are chosen.
Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy. One of the other ways, I guess, to deal with it is, like I was saying, to realize that it's going to happen. It's not it's not
Avoidable.
not unavoidable, right?
No, it's not. It's not avoidable because you're
Yeah,
saying
that's right.
you can't avoid it. You're not saying that you can't not avoid whatever.
It's unavoidable.
Yes, there
Let's
you go.
say it in the positive, please. Too many triple negatives. But yeah, I think the only way to really get through it and overcome it is to just keep charging ahead, keep trying. And we talk about safe test a lot. Like, one of the ways, like a great place to practice this is, especially if you're really trying to deal with a sin issue that you are feeling shame about, and you're not really sure who to talk about to it. See if there's a support group for it out there.
Yeah.
Because they're all going to be safe people. I mean, 99% of them are going to be safe people if they're because they're serious enough to be in the meeting.
Right.
And most of them are anonymous, so they're not going to go blabbing about who they saw in the meeting because they were in the meeting too. It's kind of safe in that way. Another great place to start is your pastor or your elders or someone else you respect at church. But those guys protect confidentiality too.
Yeah.
And maybe if they're not the ones to continue talking to, they can make a referral of some kind. I've done that. Talked to my pastor and then talked to this. It ended up being one of the elders, and then you're known at that point.
Right.
Even if it's not like, we're checking in on it every week or whatever, but it's like, at least it's out there.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily change. Like, it's not like it changed your position in the church. I mean, if anything, because you are open about your sin, it has led to so many different ministry opportunities for us.
I think so. It's part of being known. I mean, being just totally anonymous in the crowd and not having anybody really know what's inside is, I think you will not find as many ministry opportunities, ironically, because nobody knows what you're about, really. But if they know that you're dealing with your stuff and you care about grace and redemption and sanctification, that goes a long way.
Yeah, and that is so tied up with the overwhelm versus freedom and abundance stuff. I mean, having that fear of rejection run your life adds so much to our stress levels. At least when I was in that place, the combination of either, bending over backwards for certain people, I eventually had to just get them out of my life because I could never win with them, and I kept trying and
by
trying
bending
and
over
trying.
backwards, you mean like you're really trying to change your personality,
right?
To get along with this,
Exactly. That made me absolutely miserable not being myself. I mean, we talked all last week about being centered, and so it added to my stress level, and it kept me from experiencing that freedom and abundance that God wants for us, and peace.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, if you're isolated and you are just that face in the crowd, it also adds to your stress level, and one of the things that has also helped me is thinking about, at the end of my life, what do I want to have accomplished? And I don't want to be able to say, like, I didn't make any waves.
Mm-hmm.
I went through life, nobody was mad at me.
Right.
Nobody rejected me. I mean, what the calling that God has on our lives is so important and so precious. God's calling in your life is designed to change the church, to change your life, to change the lives of the people around you. We don't have time to waste on being not ourselves or on being so afraid of rejection that we don't make those connections. We don't get involved in ministry, because being involved in ministry, I mean, you can't do that without connection.
Yeah.
So.
And we need that. We need change, us being the church and the people around you. And we need that in our friend groups and our peers.
Definitely.
And if you're not being yourself, they're missing out.
Exactly.
And you're missing out because maybe you'll get some feedback, and maybe it's a little stressful and not fun to be like, oh, why'd you say that? But then at least you're in a conversation and we can move forward.
Right. Yeah, you stay stuck if you're not connected with people. Well, that was kind of a lot, but we are so glad that you guys are here with us on this Thursday, and hopefully you guys can go ahead and work on being just a little more connected and maybe normalizing rejection a little bit. Or if there's something else you want to talk about, I mean, any of this stuff that we talk about, we'd love to talk more about. If you have any questions or situations that are similar that you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, you can email us. You can come over to our Facebook group, which would be a cool place to do it because it's semi-public. I mean, it's just a group for us and our listeners, but it'd be a great place to share a story. We'd love to have you there.
All right, we love you guys, and we are praying for you. And thank you to everybody that's been sharing the episodes. We really appreciate it. And if you have found this helpful, please do share it with 2 or 3 people, because that gets the word out. Like we were talking about, everybody that's part of the body of Christ is so vitally important for us to be living in the CSCs. Otherwise, we don't get to live in the slipstream, to have that freedom and abundance and peace, to live out the mission that God's given us, to really have epic lives every single day.
That's right. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Friday when we're going to talk about practical steps to being connected.
All right. See you later.
Bye.